Good morning, Claremont Center for Spiritual Living. How are you today? I'm Reverend Tracy Earlywine and delighted to welcome you to our online service this morning. Thank you so much for making the extra effort to join us. I know it's a little bit different than walking through the front doors, but what I know is that wherever we join together, virtually or in person, we are doing so in the presence of Spirit. And so welcome to you wherever you are on your spiritual path. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be going into an opening prayer and a reading with our practitioner, Pat Richards. And I want to remind you also that prayer support is always available to you. The phone numbers of our practitioners and your minister, as well as the email address for prayer and our phone number for reaching us via telephone, whatever works for you. Do reach out. Let us support you. Let us know the truth right where we are in whatever way works best for you. For we want you to know that you are loved and that the truth is your truth, that life is magnificent and you are wonderful. I know this personally. So thank you again for joining us. Let's begin our service with a moment of quiet. I'm going to invite you to take that deep breath and maybe close your eyes and simply allow the sound of the bowl and the words of our practitioner to take you to that deep place within. Breathing into that place of the heart, that sanctuary that knows only peace. Breathing into the love that is the true essence of who you are in the oneness with all that is.
And right here, right now, in this amazing God-filled space, we breathe in all the amazingness of this morning. Just breathe it all in. Breathe in the love. Breathe in the light. Breathe in the joy, the peace, the harmony. Breathe all that in, because not only is that my truth, but that is your truth now. That is your same truth. And how powerful that truth is. All we need to do is to step forward. Think of it like the jacarandas today. How beautiful they are, how magnificent they are, blooming in their full glory, knowing their truth, knowing their power, knowing their complete essence as they light up the streets and the hillsides with all that purple, all that joy, all that strength, for that is your truth now, even in the middle of this time. We know that is our truth. So with all of this goodness, I am so happy to be here today, happy to be here in of service and support and to be here with Reverend Tracy. So please join me in saying, and so it is. So my reading today is from A Daily Dose of Sanity by Alan Cohen. It's from June 5th, and it's called The Faith Factor. I flew to the island of Hawaii to perform my goddaughter's wedding. In order for me to get home to Maui that evening, I had to book the last flight out of Kona and change planes in Honolulu. The airline reservation agent informed me that my connection time would be only 25 minutes, and if I possibly could miss my second flight. And if I did so, I would have to wait until the next morning to get home. Okay, I figured. I'd take my chances. So after the ceremony, as I sat waiting in the Kona airport, a voice came over the loudspeaker announcing that my flight would be departing 15 minutes late. That whittled my time to change planes down to 10 minutes. My mind started to spin off into negativity. Oh my gosh, what ifs and all those what if scenarios. But I decided to just practice trusting. Why waste precious moments of life worrying? I would use the experience as an opportunity to stay happy no matter what. The plane took off late, and I refused to look at my watch. Instead of trying to dictate how things should go, I simply asked for peace. I looked out the window and enjoyed the sunset. The plane landed in Honolulu 15 minutes late. I calmly exited at gate 53, and as I walked to the television monitor to find out which gate my next flight was, as I walked to my next gate to find out where I was departing from, you can imagine my surprise when I saw that my flight was leaving from gate 53. My flight to Maui was on the same plane that I had just been on. I laughed as I found my way to the very seat I had just left. No matter how late my first flight was, I would have made it on the second plane. I believe there was a direct connection between my decision to practice trust and serendipitous had occurred. There is an independent power running the universe, and that power responds to the thoughts you just think in harmony with it. Thinking and acting with faith changes the results you get. The next time you start to worry, practice trust, and you may create miracles.
Thank you. Do you remember those long car trips your dad would dream up? He'd get some harebrained idea that you needed to go to some museum in South Dakota. And so you'd all get in the car, your siblings in the back seat, drive forever. My idea of a good time during the summer was, stay home and go to Disneyland. But no, we would take these long car trips, and you know how it is. By day 4, it's like, he's on my side of the seat to make her stop looking at me, and it's hot, and there's no air conditioning back here. And of course, the endless, are we there yet? I got to tell you, the last 8 weeks, are we there yet? It's really hard sometimes to think that these road trips that we don't seem to pick will ever end. It's really hard to know. And I read a quote by Charles Fillmore, a Unity minister, who said, "There are opportunities everywhere, just as there have always been." It's really hard to see opportunity from the back seat, I have to tell you. It's a limited view. It's not comfortable. Your siblings never do what they're supposed to do. Nobody leaves you alone. You can't have any alone time at all. I hate the back seat. And so what I want to offer you this week is an opportunity to widen your view, to move to the front seat. And because you're in the front seat, you need your opportunity sunglasses. Because what do sunglasses do for us? They cut the glare of distraction. They allow us to focus more clearly, to filter the light in a way that allows us to see and take advantage of the open road before us. For the truth is, we are always on an open road. We are always on the verge of a new possibility, another opportunity, a new beginning. And when we sit somewhere where we can see that, in other words, when we work to clarify our understanding, to see is an expression we use to mean to understand. And so when we clarify our understanding, then in that sense of frustration and aggravation and oppression that happens in the back seat, we are reminded that there is something we can do to change our perspective, to change the way we feel. And so in this 8th week of pandemic, in this time of physical restriction and so many new rules and ways of managing our lives and wanting to live fully, and yet it's just more complicated. At this time, let's go back and just do what we do. Let's do science of mind and spirit the way we were taught. Let's actually prove to ourselves that this philosophy is all it's cracked up to be. We have a holistic approach in science of mind. We are talking spirit, mind, and body. We are a wholeness in expression. And so the basic teachings of science of mind tell us that through right thinking and by aligning ourselves with spiritual principle, we can change our experience of life for the better. Change your thinking, change your life. Treat and move your feet. In other words, let's shift our perspective. Let's practice what we preach. Let's walk our talk right now and prove to ourselves that we can even now live our best life. When we align our thinking, then we move differently in the world because we begin to expect the good. And my title this week is We're Expecting. And when you hear that, there's a joy and an enthusiasm and an expectation of good now and to come. And that's the place I want to live from. Don't you? Now, what we know from experience is that eventually that endless road trip does end. And it turns out the museum wasn't half bad, although Disneyland would have been better, but that's just me as a 10-year-old. And now I actually like my siblings. So you see, things change and evolve through any experience. And we come out the other side with good that maybe we didn't even know was possible. And I think that the longer the trip, the harder it can be to remember the truth of our spiritual nature. That part within us that is untouched by life, you know, that place in you when no one else is around or expecting something from you or wanting, or there's nowhere you have to be, that place in you that can simply be in the moment and watch the sunset or hear the birds or simply sit quietly in your own room, in your own space and be with yourself. That place of peace is our true nature. That place is the love that is the essence of who we truly are. And when we come from there, when we tap into that, it's a lot easier to remember that life is for us, that the bad trip will end, that we can trust life. An important aspect of self-care, of nurturing, is to maintain a pattern of expectancy. Ernest Holmes says that in this invisible law of unfoldment of the creative process, we must come to trust. And although we do not see the way, we must believe that the way is and is operating. We must trust the invisible, for it is the sole cause of the visible. It made me think of bread rising. You know, you put the dough together, you knead it, you put it in a bowl, you cover it, and then you leave it alone for hours. And it doesn't look like anything is happening. And yet, when I remember why I put the dough together in the first place, I can already smell what my house is going to smell like when it's baking. I expect the good to come from what seems to not be moving at all. And that's the truth of life unfolding in space and time. It may seem like things are not moving forward, and yet the bread is rising. We have always an opportunity before us. We always are at a point of renewal. And whether we feel it or not, it's still true. That way forward is. The order of life is. The love that life is, the wisdom of divine intelligence still operates. And so my job, my way back to expecting the good, is to realign myself with that spiritual truth within, regardless of what's going on outside. In spite of the distractions, I need my glasses. This last Wednesday night, we were talking about how you find what you're looking for. And we were challenged to do an experiment. Patty had us write down a couple of things that we were going to notice over the next couple of weeks. And next week, we're going to report back what we noticed. But I can tell you right now, one of the things I wrote down was, I wonder how many books have blue covers. Do you know how many books have blue covers? Do you know how many blue-covered books I have seen just in the last week? There are gazillions. That's a technical term. That's how many blue books there are, because I'm looking for them. So when I look for the good, I'm going to find it everywhere. And that allows me to expect something from my life, to expect things to unfold well, to expect that whatever I need, whether I know it or not, is going to show up for me, through me, as me, around me, because it can only be good. It's one way or another. At some point, I'm going to see it. You know, we have our expectations. The happy couple is expecting that baby, and they don't have full control over what that baby's going to look like. And if, unfortunately, the child looks like Uncle Fred, you just kind of have to chalk that up. But what doesn't change is the joy of experiencing that child learning to walk and listening to him laugh and watching the creativity come forth. In other words, the joy of the experience continues to unfold no matter what anything or anyone looks like. And it helps us to remember that. It keeps us in that place where we align ourselves with the truth that life is for us, that life is good, that good happens, even here, even now, always. You see, our thought is like an ice cube tray. You pour water into it, and when the water freezes, it's going to take on the shape of the tray. And so when we talk about right thinking in Science of Mind, what we're talking about is creating a shape in our thoughts, a picture, if you will, a mental equivalent, a sort of a model of what life might feel like or what we might experience, and allowing the energy of life to fill that form and take on that shape. And so every time we do our spiritual practice, every time we focus on aligning ourselves with spiritual principle, that picture beyond the movie we're in, right? That bigger perspective, that open road before us. We're reminded through reading and visioning or meditating, somehow listening rather than speaking. We're reminded by the affirmations that we choose and the prayer work that we do. We're reminded that we are grateful for the good that we see now. Every time we do that, we're shifting the form of our thoughts and therefore the experience of our life. And when we focus on things spiritual, we are truly expecting the good. For the nature of life is spiritual. The nature of life is that divinity. It's that absolute love that all things are made of. How can we not flourish in that environment? And so, what I know is that it takes practice. It takes practice to align my thinking over and over and over again. Remember, that road trip lasted several days. I might have been great on the first day, but by the fourth day I was cranky. And so I need to be reminded. And it doesn't do me any good to say, I expect good in life, and life is wonderful, and life is always for me, if in the next moment I'm thinking, oh my God, my car has to get fixed. It's probably going to cost $1,000. I'm out of alignment. And so as things come into my life, I have a choice on how I think about it, what I say to myself about it, what framework I put it in, whether I'm choosing to look out the window in the back seat, which always makes me car sick, thank you very much, or whether I'm going to look at this journey from the front seat through the eyes of opportunity. Wow, I wasn't expecting this. I wonder how my abundance is going to show up, because you know what? I know life is abundant, even for me, especially for me, as it is for everyone. Realigning my thinking in the moment comes from having spent time in my divine nature, that place within that knows truth, so that I can balance out, so that I can cut the glare of all that is coming at me from the outside. Science of mind doesn't take us to a place where nothing bad ever happens to us. It takes us to a place where we can remember that no matter what happens to us, we are well. We are okay. All is well here, right now. Pat and I were talking about her workout. As you know, she does Spartan races, and all of those have been canceled this year. The gyms are closed. She's still having to go into work with a small team, and it's stressful, and there are deadlines, and her usual outlet of going to the gym and sweating it out is not available to her. And so she'd been running some distances and training on the riverbed, and the thing is, the riverbed is where all the bicyclists train and where all the other runners are, and the families with strollers and kids and dogs like to walk because it's a nice even path. And this is not nourishing. This is frustrating for her. There's no nature. It's too crowded. People are not wearing masks. There's this sense of oppression. It's definitely a backseat view of the world. And this sense of frustration and sadness was getting the better of her for a while. And in the book 30-Day Mental Diet, Willis Kinnear says this: when you start thinking in a constructive manner, you are creating good in your life and experience, rather than just wishing things were better and thinking constantly about how bad they are. And don't we do that in some areas of our lives? I know I do. And in this case, Pat was, all she could see and feel was this experience of being crowded in and not having space to run and not getting the balance in her life between the spiritual, the mental, and the physical that she was used to. And so she did what we're doing now. She went back to basics. She says, what is it about running that I like? I like being outside. I like being in nature. I like the time by myself. And so she got off the trail and moved over to the fence that surrounded the park and decided to run along the fence. And it was night and day. There was the smell of fresh cut grass. There were no people. There were trees growing, so there was sunlight and shade and sunlight again. The fence took her right past the horse stables and the horse trail. And once again, there was a sense of renewal and recharging and being refreshed, because she was willing to rethink what workout means in life as it is right now. Just because it's not the same doesn't mean it's not possible. It's always possible. We always have opportunity if we are looking at things in the right way. And so what I offer you this week, what I ask from you, is to expect the good, and I want you to look for it so that you will find it. Whatever that means to you, look for it. And no matter what life looks like from this back seat of the shelter at home thing that we're all doing, I want you to put on your opportunity sunglasses that are right there in your pocket and look differently at what fills your heart and how you might be able to be grateful for it now. In its new form, its new shape, from your new perspective, who you are now, where you are now, fill your own heart. Because that's who we are. That's what we do. This is what we teach. You need to trust that there is, in fact, a way forward, that this road trip will end, just like the bread will rise. And know beyond a doubt that when you live from that place of the heart, that place of love and peace and gratitude, you will find more to love, more ways to be at peace, and more things to be grateful for. Namaste. And I invite you to join me in a moment of prayer. Breathing into that heart space once again. And simply feeling the center of your being. That place untouched by the world. That heartbeat that is the essence of who you are. Take a moment and find that peace within. And as you breathe, let that feeling of peace and love and joy fill you up. For it is here in the heart center that we remember the truth of who we are. And it is in this remembering that we open the door wide for the experience of Spirit to show up in a greater way. All that we are is available to this good life. All that we know is but a small portion of all that is, and all that is good. And so I speak my word for this coming week, that every day is a day of discovery of new ways to be grateful, new good to happen, new expressions of life through and as me. And as I know it for myself, I know it for everyone within the sound of my voice, that Spirit lives in and through each of us. And as such, we grow, we become, we transform, we expand, we expect nothing but the best for all. And it is in this truth of expecting the good that life can flourish for me and for everyone. And so I claim this time of flourishing. I open myself to new understanding and see that light shine in everyone's eyes. And I simply allow all that is mine to behold to unfold in space and time perfectly. For me, for those I love, for this community, for everyone in this world. Life is good and getting better, even here, even now. And I am so grateful for the blessings that staying at home has brought me. Grateful for the blessings that connecting with others in new ways has expanded my ideas of possibility. Grateful for the love that is, for the way forward that is, for all of these blessings that I have seen in those yet to be, I am grateful. And in this gratitude, I release my word into law. For law takes what I believe and expect and acts upon it, showing me in the experience of life, showing everyone in the experience of their lives, that as we believe it is done, and it is done so in time, on time, and perfectly, and so it is. All right. So let's talk about what's happening right after we do our affirmation. You know, I'm not sure why I think I'm going to skip that every week, but I'm glad I remember. So if you will, repeat after me. These are the words of Louise Hay, and I thought they were just perfect for this week. I rejoice in what I have, and I know that fresh new experiences are always ahead. I greet the new with open arms. I trust life to be wonderful. And so it is. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about what's happening. We have something different we're going to do in a couple of weeks, and so I'm asking you to send in questions that you have about science of mind. We're going to do a little question and answer. Reverend Jennifer and I are going to team up. It's going to be a little mini panel of answering questions about anything, what you want to know about science of mind, if there's a little roadblock somewhere in your life that you want to know what science of mind has to say about that. Maybe there's a place where you just like a little validation or support from the teachings that we have. And let us answer questions for you. So send in your questions. You can call them into the office. You can email them to admin@claremontcsl.org. Again, that's admin@claremontcsl.org. And we'll take all of those questions, or you can text them to me. Some of you text me. You can text them to me. We'll take all of those questions, put them in a pile, and Reverend Jennifer will talk to her congregation as well, and we will have a question and answer session for you in a couple of weeks. So do take advantage of that. I'm looking forward to it. All right. As you know, we are meeting via conference call and Zoom on Wednesday nights. We have a conference call meditation with our practitioner, Nisa Burrows, and a Zoom connection Wednesday night at 7. Meditation's at 6:15. The Zoom connection for Wednesday night Gateway is at 7 p.m., and it's always a presentation, a conversation, and a way to touch base during the week, especially during this time when we're not seeing each other. It's a great way to see your friends and focus for a moment on a spiritual truth that is alive in your life. So I invite you to join us for those. The links to both items are in our e-blast. They're on our website, and you can also call the office if you need more information. On Thursday nights, we have happy hour, which is just connection and conversation. Pull up a chair for 45 minutes at 7 o'clock and just chat with whoever's there. It's, again, a wonderful way to connect. Pretty low key. We have a good time, and I invite you to join us. It's a wonderful thing to do for yourself. You probably received a little something in the mail over the last day or so. It's a flyer that says, hey, you want to play? And, oh, look, raffle tickets. Who doesn't want to win something? So if you read the flyer, you can see, and now if you didn't get it, we probably need your address, so call the office. But if you read the flyer, it says, hey, if you want to play, figure out how many tickets you want to buy. They're $10 each. Put your name and phone number on the back of the one you return to us, right? Keep your stubs and mail these in the self-addressed stamped envelope, and we will have a drawing. So get these back to us by next Friday. We'll draw on the 29th, and whoever wins will get half of the proceeds from the whole collection, and the other half will benefit the center. So it's a way to have fun. It's a little bit of a fun fundraiser, and it's a way for us to stay connected. Now, if you don't want to play with the raffle, that's fine. Don't waste the stamp. In this envelope, slip your a little piece of paper with your name, your phone number, your email address, and the month and day of your birthday. We're updating our contact list. We want to make sure we have the latest information for you so that we can stay in touch for however long this goes on. So do use the envelope. Send us your information. Send us your tickets and check if you would like to play with the raffle, and help us to stay connected with you. Let's have a little fun. Let's have a little fun. So I hope you'll join us in that. Again, I want to thank everyone for continuing to support Claremont Center. Your contributions make it possible for us to do what we do and ensure that we will be ready for everyone's return when the time comes. So thank you again for supporting us in that way. Thank you again to our production team for putting all of this together. And I want to give an extra shout out to our board. Your board members are meeting weekly for a conversation and a little bit of business and coming up with great ideas. They're working very hard to come up with ways for us to be creatively connected, and we appreciate that. So for all of you, I invite you to look for the good and remember you are loved. Until next time.